What am I saying again?
This is MPW,
MPW.
the podcast
with your host,
Xylo Aria. Cool.
A podcast about music production
for the everyday musician,
where we learn from experienced studio engineers and each other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the MPW podcast. I'm your host, Xylo Aria, and today we are talking to the lovely Franky. So Franky is a singer, songwriter and DJ from the UK, and she has been supported by the likes of BBC Introducing, Clash Magazine and EQ, and has also collaborated with artists including Icona Pop, Izzy Bizu, and ManyFew and loads more. So really lovely to have you with us today, Franky. How's your morning been so far?
Productive, actually. This morning I got up, I did a stretch class, I did a little workout class, just to get me going just before the podcast. So I feel pretty productive this morning. I know. It's nice weather, so that always helps me. If the weather's nice, then okay, I'll be productive today.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Do you have a bit of like a morning routine to get you into the kind of groove?
I do actually, yeah. Like that is usually, I always try and do a 10-minute stretch class and then like a 10-minute hit session. And then I'll always have my green tea. It's like a little ritual I have every morning. And if I don't do it, I feel like not as psyched for the day. I don't know about yourself, if you have anything that you do or if I'm just a complete weirdo, but I do that every single day.
No, totally. I know what you mean. Is it like a YouTube channel or something that you follow for your hit and stretch?
I literally do different ones every time, so I don't even have a certain person. No, I'm trying them all over. I just put in to YouTube morning stretch class and I go down the whole list. And so,
cool.
Yeah, so I'll try them different every day.
Nice. That's good. So today we are talking about co-writes and collabs. So something that a lot of artists, I guess, it's important for them to think about because we're not creating music in a vacuum where it's just us and that's it. And some people are not sure how to approach that. So keen to chat to you about that. But before we do that, I'd love to hear a bit more about you and your background in music and how you got to what you're doing today.
It's quite a long-winded story, so I'll shorten it as much as I can for you.
Oh, good.
When I was about, I want to say 11 or 12, my dad got me a piano from eBay for £10, which is like nothing. So it was completely not tuned. I think I had to work for it as well. He probably made me do like a week of gardening or something. But he got me that. And then I started dabbling on the keys. I started busking on the streets and then just kind of took it from there. I mean, my first songs that I ever wrote were truly horrendous, but everybody starts somewhere. So
For sure.
Exactly. And then after that, The Voice UK came out and I went on that. I got to the quarterfinals, but I didn't know my sound. I didn't know my style. I actually knew truly nothing what I wanted to be as an artist. So after that, I surfer hopped in London for about 2 years, knocking on every door possible until, it's quite, and then as soon as I knew enough people, I moved to London, got with the management that I'm with now, and then stayed there for a couple of years until I could move back up north where I live now, and I just travel as I need to. So it's gone through the hideous section to get to this point, a lot of knocking on doors, rejection, sleeping wherever I needed, on sofas and doing whatever I needed to finding my sound, and then I got to this point. So obviously there's a lot more involved, but that's like the shortest version I can do.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds really brave to kind of really put yourself out there and just have that much determination that you just, kept at it, even if you didn't know exactly how you were going to get to wherever you wanted to go. Do you know, is it something specific that keeps you motivated even after a bunch of rejections and things?
Yeah, I think it's like the sacrifices that you do on the way. You think, well, I've sacrificed so much to get to this point. It's really corny, but the saying, I didn't get this far just to get this far. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying. It's a little bit corny, but I really believe that. It's like I didn't do everything I did to get to this point just to stop at this point. So I want to keep going and I want to make sure I get to exactly where I want to be, and I want thousands to hear my music. I want to headline festivals. I want to. That's what I want to do for a living. You can always do a job you hate, so you might as well try your hand at something you absolutely adore, and then if that ends up being your lifetime career, then I think you've done great in life. So a little bit cheesy for 11 a.m. but
No, not at all. And I haven't actually come across that saying, but if you've already sacrificed a few things, then you don't want to let it go so easily. And do you have a way to deal with rejection? And I know we're kind of going off topic, but it's interesting to know because it is something that people seem to have a lot of fear around being rejected. So are there any tools that you have to deal with that?
I always just think you never know unless you try, for me. So I always think like the worst outcome is I'm in the exact same position I was before I went for whatever I'm doing. So I'm actually losing nothing. If I didn't do something, I'd kick myself for ages. I know what I'm like. It would be my nightmare. I hate thinking what if, or I wish I'd have said this, or I wish I'd have done that. So I think you're never going to regret trying to do something, because the best case scenario is obviously you come out and you've got, I don't know, for me, a big publishing deal, a great collaboration, or whatever it may be. If I hadn't have gone for that, I would never know. So that's how I always think. I never regret it, even if I get rejected. I think, well, at least now I know that didn't, and I'll try and take from it what I can to improve my craft and, do what I can. Sometimes you go in a room, you just think, you know what, now I've met that person, I don't think they're for me either. So at least, like I say, at least then you just know where you're at. And sometimes I'm the worst person. I'll just keep knocking on the door until they say, right, okay, just come in, just to shut her up, just get her in. Let's just listen to her tracks.
I love that. I feel like there's so much wisdom just in there of, and it sounds in some ways obvious of like, you don't know until you try and what's the worst that's going to happen. But it is actually an optimistic way to look at things, even if it sounds more like a pessimistic thing.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing often is not as bad as you might actually think. So
Definitely.
So I love that. That's great. So talking a little bit about collaboration. So you've written with some pretty big artists, including like Icona Pop and Izzy Bizu, which I think isn't out yet, if I'm not
That's right. Yeah, that's
wrong.
next month.
Yeah.
Next month, that one, yeah.
Okay, very exciting. So with these collaborations, where did that start for you, and how did you start writing with others?
I think I actually just naturally fell into it, because I think that my manager at the time put me in a session with a DJ who was looking for a vocalist. So I went for it. It was signed to Warner, I think. So it was like, okay, great. This is, a major. The artist was great. I felt like I could definitely do what they wanted, and we got in and we wrote, and it went from there. I mean, I had an instrumental sent to me one day as well, and I top-lined that. And they took it, so then that ended up going out. So it's all just kind of I haven't forced it, which is great. But now I'm at a stage where I'm truly dropping in people's DMs on Instagram, being like, hey, you're really cool, can we work together? And, sometimes you just get completely pied and no one gets back to you. And then other times you get people like, oh yeah, great, send your stuff over to this. Or, if I have a track that I think would be really good for someone, I might send them it. Or it's kind of all happened in different ways. Some I've just like done myself and gone out to because I really want to work with the person. Other times, like for ManyFew, we met during lockdown. That was on, we just emailed each other and we connected online. And then others, like I say, my management might send me an instrumental or say there's this person who really needs a vocalist and a writer, can you go in with them? So it genuinely just, once it started happening and I got one collab, then it was like a snowball effect really. It was like, okay, well I know I can write for dance and house tracks now, so why don't I do more of that? So it just kind of, it really just snowballed, and now I know I really like it. That's like I say, I just reach out to other artists now because I want to work with as many as I can. It really helps me as a writer, and also my artist project, it helps me with that because I can kind of push myself past boundaries and things like that. So it's been really handy to do, and I really, really enjoy it.
Okay, that's great. And you mentioned in some situations you DM the person, and in other situations your management has reached out to someone and facilitated that for you. What would you say about for some people that feel like they don't have management, so it's something that they can't do? What would you have to say to that?
I would say do it yourself, because truly I think a management, you shouldn't need them. They should just be there because to amplify things. So I feel like you should already be able to take some initiative yourself. I could be wrong, so this could be like, completely, not, you don't have to take this as whatever, but for me, I still do it myself. I still do contact and reach out to people myself, and I think it's important to never lose sight of that, because God forbid one day your team's not there, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have, I'm constantly asking questions to my management if they've done something that I'm not able to physically do myself, like how or why and how does it work and what, I just think it's really, I think you should always be able to, take initiative yourself and know everything you can about the industry and your craft and everything, really, just so that, like I say, if you don't need them, but it's great to have them there. It's more of a addition than a necessity, even though it is really helpful to have a management, of course, like it's super handy, and my team are really great, but you don't ever want to feel like you're completely reliant, I feel, on them getting you the stuff. So I would just say do it yourself. DM, connect to people, be annoying if you have to. And people will listen.
That's good. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really good point as well, like be annoying if you have to, because people seem really scared to be that. But I guess no one's going to be discovered just kind of sitting there and hoping.
Yeah, I mean, don't get a restraining order, don't go that far, but just just so that they know you're definitely there. Just give them a nudge maybe a week later. Don't want people to take this out of hand. Just
Yeah. Okay. And then talking about when you reach out to people for co-writes yourself, is that usually through Instagram, or how do you go about doing that? And do you have a particular kind of success rate roughly?
It's always been Instagram for me personally. I'm sure there's other ways and means of social media you can get to people, but Instagram's always been great for me. Someone was saying the other day, Instagram now is basically your website. A lot of people look at that and they can see what you've done, who you've worked with. So it's really good to look at other people and, see if I really like that they do that, and whatever. You've heard the music on Spotify. So I think you can really gauge who's really going to be good for you to work with and whose stuff you really like. And, they'll either just, the good thing with Instagram is you don't have to, if they just don't show it as read and they just discard it, I never know they've read it. So I can't say, they just ignored me. It's no, they just never they never showed you that they saw it. But if they are interested, they'll let you know they've seen it, and then they'll reach out to you, so you can kind of get a hint. I guess with collabs, I'm not as annoying as industry professionals. I mean, them I'd knock on their door more, but with collabs it's they either do want to work with you or they don't want to work with you, or you send them your stuff, and if you don't hear back, they're probably not into it. You can maybe chase once, but that's about it, really, I think. But that's the best tool ever, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. So actually, who are the industry professionals that you're being annoying with, out of curiosity?
Even my management that I'm with now, I bumped into the head guy there at 3 different events, and I don't even know if we've talked about this since, to be fair. And he probably just, I was like, oh my God, you're here again. That is so bizarre. What are the chances? The chances are high, because I knew he was going to be there, so I would just constantly.
That's so funny.
I don't think we've addressed this because I've been with them years now, but at the time I just really wanted them to meet with me, and to actually get in the room took me ages, and then I sent a million emails, and then eventually he said, just come in and we'll listen to your stuff, and we'll, and I had a chat with him. I sent him a couple of things before, and then they was the guy who looks after George, one of the managers there, loved what I was going for. He loved my style, everything. He said, yeah, let's do this. And I thought, thank God I randomly bumped into the guy who owns the place, and randomly kept, oh, great to see you the other day. So about me coming in, stuff like that. Just if you're kind of smart with it so it doesn't look super weird. I was probably verging on that thing we was talking about, to be fair. I think I was probably verging on the restraining order lines, but it got me there eventually.
Oh, that's so funny. And for those just listening to the audio, there's a lot of air quotes going on with the randomly
Yes,
bumping
yeah.
in.
yeah. A lot of air quotes, yeah.
Yeah, it's it is important to talk about, I think, because a lot of people seem to take more of the passive approach, which, in today's day, I guess it doesn't really work in the industry. So that's good to know. And when we talk about you wanting to collaborate with someone, is there something specific that you need to see in an artist for you to want to write with them?
Usually it's like, it might be random, like I'll be listening on Spotify, a playlist, whatever, and I might come across someone and be like, this is sick, like this is great, check them out, and be like, oh, so they do this, you just kind of then see what they're about, and it usually just goes off something like that, like I'll hear a track and be like, who's this? It's easier with DJs because obviously I'm a vocalist, but I've not actually collaborated with any other vocalists, I don't think, yet, apart from me doing the backing vocals on the Icona Pop song. I've not actually physically, so that would be interesting to do, to be fair. So that might be something I'll look at exploring at some point. But with DJs, it's great because you can be like, oh, this production's really cool. Like, I could definitely write something for them. I know I could if they've got any instrumentals. It's a little bit easier. They can just send, But probably I'd like to do it with other artists as well as that, vocalists as well. I think that would be really cool. So that's probably something I'll look at going forward as well.
Okay, cool. And then when we talk about, if you've DM'd someone and they're keen to work on something together, do you have a particular process in co-writing with someone? Are you usually in the room together, or how are the ideas generated?
From a lot of them, actually, no, because some of them will be based in, I don't know, Germany, Sweden, wherever. So for them, it's obviously a little bit harder, unless they're coming over to London, and I'll travel to London and we'll kind of meet, sort of there. Other than that, it's been like, I'll get an instrumental, I'll send back a top line. They might say, oh, this is really good, can you tweak these bits? Vice versa. And we'll just go back and forth till we get it right. But other than that, it's been kind of like, if I can, I love to be in the studio writing with them. I just think it's a little bit easier. It takes so much longer going back and forth. Not that I have a problem with it, but it's just nicer to be in the room then and there. And you just get a feel for people. Like, I've done Zoom sessions and they're absolutely fine. You can do it on Zoom, but I don't know what, there's something about being in a room with other people for me where you just get like it sounds a bit hippie now, but like the energy of the room. I'm doing a hippie peace sign, by the way, for people who can't there is something about that. I don't know, like you get to chat for a bit before, you all kind of just get a feel for the room, and but I can do them over Zoom, and we do them over emails and things as well. But if I can, I always try to meet in person, and then we can always go grab a beer afterwards and actually get to know each other, so that we're actually like each other. It's not just a working relationship, you can kind of just get to know a bit more about them as actual people as well. So yeah, that's usually, if I can, I'll do it that way.
Okay. So when you are meeting in person, is there a particular process that you like to follow, or is it pretty organic and different every time?
Yeah, it has actually been different every single time. Like, say if some of them have been instrumentals, and I might have said like to a friend, oh, do you want to come in this session with me? I've got this instrumental where I think we could write something great on it, and I'll try and get other people involved. Other times I'll just write it in my house, just me. This is my little studio room now that I'm in. It's not huge, but it does what it does. I've got my keys, I've got my, you can do stuff at home that's like, maybe not the toppest quality, but enough for them to hear it. Once you send the stems over, they can at their end polish it up. So it's amazing what you can do with the little you've got. Other than that, yeah, sometimes it's just been in the room. We've started from scratch, just getting on the keys, doing it just like back to basics. So yeah, every single time has been different, which I quite like. I'm like that with writing anyway. Sometimes I'll go off a melody. Other times I'll go off a lyric idea I've got or a story I've heard or that I've been through. So I think it's quite nice to have it different every time so that you don't get too structured and right, this is how I have to write. Because if I do that, I can get writer's block because I'm not as kind of open to different ways of writing. So I try and make sure it's organic, but it usually varies.
Okay. And in that scenario, if you were in person with someone, do people usually have clear roles in the collaboration, or is it kind of everyone's generating, melody ideas or lyric ideas?
Yeah, I think I think sometimes it is quite not important to have a role, but you never want too many chefs in one kitchen. So I guess it's good, like you can leave the producer to produce and you could maybe say, oh, what about adding this there, or and it's same with you. But I think everyone kind of knows why they're there usually, so it's good. I'll be there to write and do vocals, and I'll do that, I'll show them. And then if they have any things after oh, what about this, or no, I'm not sure about this, or yeah, we love that, and vice versa, whilst they're making beats or whatever, that sounds great, or can you change? So I think it's important, kind of your lane, but then you're also not afraid to sort of say if you want little changes, and you kind of just tap into each other. It's like a little tap in and then back out and tap, not too demanding, because I think you don't want to be kind of controlling the situation. Everyone has their own ideas. I have been in sessions before where it's felt like someone's controlling it and it's their way or no way on every single thing, and it's not enjoyable. The song never turns out as great because it's one person's mind and you think, really, I don't like it like that, so I try not to be that way myself. If I don't like an idea, I'll still be polite about it. Yeah, that's usually, I think, the way that it goes in sessions usually.
Yeah. That's good, and of course that makes complete sense. Like you want to be respectful and respected as well in the sessions. And then talking a bit about like goals and the aims of the sessions. Like if you're writing with someone, has there often been like a particular goal that you've gone into the writing session with? Like you are writing for, a particular playlist or something like that? Or has it always been really organic?
Unless it's a writing camp, then usually it's organic. I guess if it's an artist and they've got a certain sound, then you think, right, I've got to make sure I write for the sound, or for my style, I know exactly what I'm feeling that day. And so that's really easy. But in a writing camp, it's usually a brief. I know that some writing camps I've done, they've been like, okay, we want it to be like, and it's whatever is number one at the time. You think, for that song before it was number one, wasn't looking to be like they were probably just in the studio having a good time writing, and it ended up being amazing. So sometimes I try and not force the brief too much. I'll keep on the, the general spectrum of what they want, but if they're like, okay, this has to be the next Xylo track or whatever, you think, okay, well, we'll generally do a dance track, but we're just going to make a good track because that's the main aim. If we try and do it like his last track or whatever, that's just, I don't think it ever works then. I think you're trying to force and copy almost. I think each song should just be generally on the genre and, the style, but make it original and fresh. Otherwise, it's just going to sound like, everything else. So I'd follow a brief, but I'll still try and keep my mind as open as I can to how it can be different from, whatever else they're getting sent that day.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. And yeah, I think there can be this feeling of wanting to make the next big track. And then that can often put so much pressure on the writing that it makes it not fun and not organic. So that's good to think about.
Definitely.
Then looking at kind of the song splits, is that something that you talk about before, or how do you approach that? Because I know sometimes people can find it a bit awkward to talk about that.
Yeah, I think in a room, like I usually do, sometimes at like a writing camp, they'll make you all sign something before to say it's an equal split. Usually I just go off that anyway. It's usually an equal split for me because I'm really not that bothered about, when I need an extra 10% or, and there's been times I've not done as much in a track and I've gone, oh, you know what, guys, they might have just asked me to come in for the struggling on the second verse or what something like that. And I'm like, just give me just that, I don't want an equal split. I've not had, some people are really generous and they're like, no, take it and chill. And others are. So I try and be as fair as possible. Like if I've truly only been asked to just help with, like someone said, oh, they're stuck, can you write this bit on the pre or whatever? I don't think I need credit for like an equal split of that whole song. You know, I try and be as fair as possible. But if I'm in a room, sometimes I have shared splits with people who have really not contributed as much, and I've given, you know, an equal split because I just think there might be a time where that person wants to work with you again. They've got an amazing thing, and you don't want to put people off because you're so funny about splits. Obviously, you don't want people to take the mick either of you. Like, you don't want them to sort of, you know, take you for a ride. So I think it's like just finding a fine balance. I mean, the industry is a little bit corrupt in the sense that for writers, we have to give our percentages away to people who have had actually no contribution to the song at all. And that's a really frustrating thing for most writers. I honestly don't understand it. I don't know any other profession where you would give money away to someone who hasn't helped with the situation, you know, the project or whatever it is. So I just find it a really bizarre concept that you have to give percentages to people who haven't had any involvement. You can start with 3 of you writing a track and there's 10 of you on the credits by the end of it. That to me is mind-blowing, but it is how the industry is at the moment, and it probably will be for a long time. So for writers, it can get frustrating, and probably for producers as well, because I know there's ghost producing and things like that. But you sometimes have to bite the bullet because, you know, if you get an amazing cut, you know, you're not going to start being funny because they want, I don't know, 5% or whatever. Give them the 5%. You've got an amazing cut and it could help and lead to the next thing. And I guess that's how people look at it. But it is kind of a grey area, a bit of a touchy one for some people, I guess, when it comes to things like that. Splits are never straightforward. I'll try and be as straightforward as possible with them, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And if you're trying to be as fair as possible, I guess you can't determine how everyone else is going to react. But that's a great way to approach it. So coming a little bit back to your career as well as an artist, what do you think so far has been the greatest challenge for you?
The greatest? Do you know, just keeping with it sometimes. I think that is truly the greatest challenge. Like, it's such a cutthroat industry, and there's so many times where you're just like, oh my God, like, it just almost doesn't, sometimes you don't feel like the rewards outweigh the hard work, but they do eventually. They do. So when you persevere, that's it, perseverance. That's the hardest challenge, I would say, for an artist. Well, for me personally, I can't speak for everyone, because you just think, no, keep at it. And I'm so glad I do. Every time I look back on a year previous and think, wow, I can't believe, you know, in this year I've done all this, because if you'd have told me that a year ago, I'd have been like, no way. And then you're always trying to climb to the next level up, or the next, you know, that I think that's probably in every profession is maybe similar. But so I think, yeah, just perseverance, being patient as you can, trying to make sure, you know, you don't lose yourself in the midst of it all as well. You know, you can come across some really not great people and think, right, I can see now why people don't like people. So you have to remember, just, you know, keep yourself about you. Don't lose yourself, and just persevere with it, because it will pay off. You know, there's things I've done in my life. Icona Pop, for example, like you were saying earlier, that they are one of my biggest inspirations. I love their stuff. I would have never in a million years have thought I would have written a song that they would be on. Like, that's to me insane. So I'm glad I persevered, because that wouldn't have happened if not, you know, things like that. And so yeah, just perseverance.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely something that's hard, and not everyone can do, especially in the music industry. So I can see how that would be a challenge, and it's great that you are keeping yourself going as well through that. And what would you say on the flip side has been the biggest highlight for you so far?
Oh, I've done so many things that I've really loved. I guess I remember it keeps changing, because I remember when I got my first 1 million streams and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. My life's going to change. But you obviously don't. As you get on, you're like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem as big of a milestone. Then you get like a cheat codes cut and you're like, okay, this is it. My life's about to change. And it actually doesn't. Like, nothing changes. You've just done something else. So like, it constantly keeps changing. Like, you know, I'll get a big cut and that's it. Then life will change. And life actually doesn't. You just have to keep working super hard. But I mean, I guess there's milestones I have that I've not done yet. So I feel like they'll be my greatest achievements. But every time you get to one and you tick it off, then your next one comes along. So I always just try and enjoy every single small achievement. You know, if it's, I remember when I put my second personal, not collaboration, but like my personal single out. And all of a sudden, it got like, I think it was like 50,000 streams overnight on Apple Music. And I messaged my management and I was like, I think there's a glitch on Apple Music. It's like, it's going up so crazy. And they was like, oh my God, what? So we checked and it was just doing really well. And that for me was a great achievement because I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and it got on some great playlists, not through that we'd, you know, had to go to people and ask for this. They'd just been recognised. So that for me was a great achievement. I've played some great festivals where I think that's great. I'm doing one this summer that I can't wait for. And, you know, I think every small thing I do now, I try and take not for granted because I just think you're always going to be looking for the next achievement. So whenever it feels huge, it probably is to you, but it's actually probably not. You know, nothing yet has changed my life. It's just amplified and kind of give me like reassurance that, yeah, you know, you're doing the right thing, you're in the right industry. Like it's kind of like a nod to like, okay, yeah, keep going.
I think you know, it's a good thing that you mentioned there that it's not one specific thing, and that there are a lot of different things that you do need to celebrate as well. And I think that's something that so easily can be forgotten, especially when you are pushing yourself and it's always on to the next thing and the next thing and the next goal. So when you are hitting these milestones, it's important to just take a minute and acknowledge what you've done. So I think that's awesome. And it's great that you're looking forward as well to what else you've got coming up on the horizon, and you're already excited for hitting those as well. So really, really exciting stuff, Franky. And I guess that brings us pretty much to the end of the episode. So thank you so much for sharing a lot of good stuff with us on the co-writing, but also just generally how to keep a positive mindset. All right. Well, what's on for the rest of your day?
What have I got on? Oh, it's an admin day. It's an admin day today, which they have to be done, but I'm like, oh. So it's been nice to speak to you. And I have a couple of Zoom meetings as well today. So it's going to be a productive one at least. But the admin side, you know, what about yourself? Are you doing anything fun?
It is now 8:40 p.m. and I have to be up at 4:30 a.m. for a class that I'm teaching. So I'm going to be in bed fairly soon.
Yeah, don't blame you. Well, thank you so much for taking the evening out to speak to me. I really appreciate it again.
Oh, no, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure our audience is going to get lots from it too. So I will leave you to your admin day, Franky, and thanks again and have a good one.
Thanks so much. See you later.